Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Nevermind Poly podcast. Hope everybody is doing well wherever you are listening to this podcast. My name is Matt. I'm your host, and we chat to rock and metal bands from around the world. And this week is no exception. I'm chatting to the brilliant guitarist and frontman of the band Oceans, Timo. How are we doing today?
Hello, I am doing very, very well. And I am happy to be here.
The pleasure is all mine. It's all
Thanks
good.
for the really nice introduction.
No,
Brilliant sounds good.
Brilliant. No, genuinely brilliant. I have to just first of all acknowledge, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you've got a really cool glow behind you. Is that like a lighting effect in your house or?
I bought how's it called? It's like a projector.
Yeah, it looks like I'm staring into the Northern Lights behind you. It's amazing.
Yeah, I actually I do love it. I just try to pimp up my
Pimp up your get up.
my Zoom background, and $30 on
Amazing stuff.
on this
Amazing.
big online retail store that I don't want to say the name of.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. So the reason why we're all here is to chat to you guys about and to yourself about the new record. Hell is where the heart is. You're a few days before releasing it. How are you feeling right now? How's the mood of yourself and the general other lads in the camp?
I feel excited, very much excited about it. I'm really happy that it's finally, I even want to say, coming to a closure.
Yeah, no,
because we've been releasing songs from this album I just realized this doing a lot of interviews now. We've been releasing songs for a year now. The first single was released in November 2021.
Yeah, it's pretty mad, isn't it? It's pretty mad. So I heard about you guys through a couple of the singles that have been released during lockdown. I like to think that I'm quite good at finding new bands where, you know, with the Spotify, Apple, wherever, you can obviously you have everything. So generally most people will just default to what they know because we like home comforts and such. But I found you guys just like I say through Spotify playlists and things like that. So I guess it's kind of a different way of approaching sort of not quite so much writing music, but kind of releasing music. How do you find it doing that sort of thing where you're sort of drip feeding music rather than just going bang, here's the record?
Yeah, it just felt, I would say, I mean, I would even say it felt necessary to do it differently because streaming, I mean, this is old news. Streaming has massively changed the way how we as people consume music, but also how the whole industry works. And the whole metal community, not community, but the whole metal industry is kind of lacking behind.
Yeah.
If you ask me, they are still stuck in this every 3 years we release an album and then we go on tour cycle kind of thing. Whilst the mainstream pop and especially hip hop and rap world has shifted to a way faster, more single driven approach in releasing music, which is of course because it's in line. People don't have probably this big attention span anymore. I don't know if it's really the case, but that's what people say all the time. So like you said, they listen more to playlists than maybe to a whole album. And we saw it with the debut. You can check the stats on Spotify, and if you just look the songs like along the track list and watch the stream, you can just see the streams go down like a waterfall the farther it goes at the end of the album. And we said, okay, I mean, we put so much work in all those songs and so much love and time and money. Why should we accept that nobody is hearing half of it?
Absolutely. I want to say just off the bat that there are the very few, and I class myself as the very few who will sit down with a record. So with certain bands, I try not to listen to anything, you know, because the thing is, it's like, you know, people get excited about new music and they go, oh, okay, cool. And it's like, but a whole body of work, and especially with your guys' material as well. When I got sent the record, obviously I had the singles and things, but encompassing it as a whole piece of art, it makes so much more sense, because it's like these songs are different but all kind of themed together, if that makes sense. Obviously it will to yourself, but
Yeah.
it is such a thing with streaming and things, where it's kind of like you say, there's just a constant need for content, and I like to think of this sort of thing as a bit of an algorithm, and then
Yeah.
it just eats it all up and all the rest of it. So the world is different from where it was a few years ago, and obviously I don't want to touch on this too much because it's so depressing as a topic, but
Yeah.
the pandemic kind of is happening over wherever you stand on it. How was kind of the recording process, putting out music during that time, and how did you kind of stay kind of mentally sane, I guess, during that time? Because it was a weird one for everybody.
That's true. It was a weird one. I mean, of course, it's frustrating, especially for us being like, we started out in 2018, 19, then we had the debut coming in the beginning of 2020. Got the signing with Nuclear Blast, got on our first European tour, and everything was like, okay, fuck yeah, we're gonna blow up now. But then everything got shut down.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, of course. But back then it wasn't as frustrating as it is now, to be honest, because then we just took all that energy that we had and just went fully digital and just put everything we had in the social media, into writing new music, into releasing new music constantly, put out singles, put out EPs, tried to incorporate the fans into some releases. And it was fun, and it worked well for us, I think.
For sure. For sure.
And yeah, and this is also, I would say, what kept us sane during this whole time. And it also enabled us to still grow as a band and not be totally stopped by this whole shutdown of the live industry.
Absolutely. And the reason why I ask is because I've spoken to a number of bands who've been gracious enough to give me their time over this period, and bands who have been going for longer than you guys, say like on their 8th, 9th record or whatever, have kind of said it was a chance for them to just stop and just take stock of what they've done over that time. Whereas for you guys, you hadn't really sort of started. You were sort of revving the engine to go, and then it was kind of like halted at the last second. So I guess you've kind of really got now like 2 albums worth of material to go out and be like, this is us as a band, this is our new stuff, but here's also a shitload of other stuff. So in a way, you're kind of in a weirdly good position, I would guess, having that perspective.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, it's like you said, we just steered into we just adjusted our direction a little and just pressed down the gas pedal 100% and did the fully digital thing. And yeah, it is like you said, we didn't, during that time we managed to grow as a band, put out new music, strengthen our status. But it has come to this point now where we really need to go out on the road. Like you said, we've been releasing songs now constantly for over a year. And even if the fans might not be like oversaturated already, I don't know, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but we are just very, it's just an exhausting process to always release, always produce the release content, always be in this mode, always doing the PR and everything, you know. It's and not playing live, not having this outlet.
Absolutely.
And so we feel that right now we're at this point where, like you said, we have a shit ton of material and people want to hear it. People all over the world want to hear it. And we need to go out, but it is hard to get out there because shows are happening again. But there's a lot of buts, actually. There's so many problems now, you know, not only because of the pandemic and the shutdown. And let's say, for example, festivals still have bands on their roster for 2023 that they booked back in 2020 or 21. That makes it hard for a newcomer band to get on the billing. This is one thing. And then on the other hand, there's the reason why a lot of tours get canceled or at least shrunk down at the moment, because everything is getting fucking expensive. There's no crew members, the gas is expensive, buses are expensive. And it's sometimes logistically and financially simply not possible to do a tour. And this, yeah, it makes it hard. We're in a very tough position at the moment because we, like you said, we have it all. We're here. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
But the circumstances are very, very hard at the moment. And we just have to hold on a little longer and work hard and hope for the best.
Absolutely, and I think that's very, very honest of you to say that, because I don't think the average music fan quite gets it, because essentially what they see is they say, okay, so a band will release a record, they'll then go on tour and they'll make shitloads of money and everything will be great, but the world was never like that to begin with, unless you're like at the really high top end anyway. But it's the logistics, like you say, is an absolute nightmare at the moment. You know, I was watching a tech guy who goes on tour with bands and talk about like breakdowns of how much like a bus costs, like just a simple like Sprinter van, and it was like fucking mental. Like, do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
And there's a total, like, overall Europe, there's a massive shortage of bus drivers. That's an even more problem. Not just the buses, but they all the drivers that basically lost their jobs during the pandemic, they just went on to do something else, and nobody wants to come back now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I would like to, if we can, touch a little bit on your sort of musical upbringing, as I've put it in my notes,
Sure.
because I think everyone has like a story of how they got into where they are today, and you're a guitarist as well as vocalist. So, what was your kind of musical upbringing? Were your family musical, and how did you kind of get into the music you play now?
My family, I mean, not overly, but a little bit. My dad plays the piano. But that's about it, actually. And for metal music, it's the same story as for most. I mean, I didn't have a bigger brother or anyone who could like hand me his metal CDs. But then I had friends at school that had bigger brothers that
absolutely,
that got cool CDs. I think the first stuff that I listened to in school was stuff like Sepultura, Rammstein, Korn, Slipknot. Those are just the bands that I started with back then that got me into heavy music. I mean, this was late 90s, now more like early 2000s. So those were the bands back then that were kind of those entry bands into the metal world. So this is what got me hooked with metal music. And then I think it was about when I was 13, 14 or so, me and a bunch of friends from school, we just said, hey, we want to start a band. And back then I actually started to play bass. So originally I'm a bass player, actually. I had bass lessons for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years when I was a kid or a teenager. And yeah, that's just what we did. We were a couple of friends starting to learn their instruments and at the same time starting to form their first band, and we just met every week and played and fooled around.
Absolutely. What made you transition from bass to guitar? What was the sort of reasoning for that, or was it just a case of wanting to try something different as well?
No, it just happened. I mean, I've been playing guitar anyways because I was always into recording a lot and songwriting, like at home at the computer. So I started writing songs very early, and therefore I just recorded all the instruments. And this is how I how I learned to play guitar. But I taught myself, and the only thing that I can do is play like metal guitar, and not like, and even not that even not even that good. I'm like, I can play rhythm guitar, if you want to say it like that. I'm not like a crazy shredder or soloist or whatever. I cannot do any of that. But I can play pretty tight, which comes from the recording thing, I guess, because I always had the direct feedback. I sat in front of the computer, recorded something, could listen to it and see, this is not tight on the drums. I need to be better on that. So this is how I learned. And then, yeah, I was just playing in another band back then. I was playing the bass and then the lead guitar, and I was also writing a lot of the songs, and I was also recording most of the guitars and bass in the studio for that band. And then the lead guitarist left the band, and we just said, okay, it's easier to replace, to get someone to play the bass, and I just play the guitar because I write all the shit anyways.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember? Do you remember the first CD that you bought with your own money, or vinyl tape, whatever it would have been back then?
Oh no, it wasn't vinyl. That was the CD era.
Yeah.
I'm not that old.
No, me neither. I said I
Or
was
not
born.
that young. Depends.
Yeah.
Depends, oh, that's really hard to say. Really, really hard to say. I'm tempted to say Issues by Korn.
Great record.
But might not be the truth though. But it was
No, that's fair.
definitely it was definitely one of the first metal CDs that I bought, and one of the albums that I hold most dearest.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love all the early Corn stuff. It's very, very good. I'd like to ask, how do you go about writing your music? So I've put in the notes here. How do you go about writing a song like I Sing or Skin? Because does it start off with a sort of a riff or a lyrical idea? How does it kind of go from a tiny little acorn of an idea to a big oak tree of a
Yeah.
metal riff?
I mean, it depends a little, but mostly I probably can say I always start with the music. I never have, or had until this point, because now I try to do that more. But as I haven't been a vocalist in the past, I was playing guitar, bass, I was doing some backing vocals. And when I did vocals, it was always screaming and growling stuff. So I never started writing music with like a melody line, like of vocals or anything like that, because it doesn't work with screaming. There's no melody in it. So I always started with the guitar in my hand in front of the computer, drum computer, maybe a beat, maybe a riff, something like that. But nowadays it evolved a little, because with Oceans I got much more into the clean vocals thing. I kind of explore what I can do with my voice, what I am able to do with melodies, with singing. How high can I sing? How low can I sing? All that stuff. It's still new to me, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And I felt that this has opened up a whole new world of how to approach writing songs, because now I can actually do that. I can have this whistle. I don't know. I can whistle a melody and think, oh, this might be a cool vocal line, or I have some lyric bits and pieces in my head already, and then I come up with a melody, and then I write a song around it. So yeah, now there's no formula anymore, but mostly I start with the music. I never start with the lyrics.
For sure. If you could create your own dream tour with Oceans being on that bill, what other two bands would you have on a 3-band bill?
Two bands. Okay, it has to be Korn. There's no
Okay.
other way.
Yeah.
There's no other
Fair.
way for me. It's just that they have ever been, and they still are my most favorite band.
Yeah. You'll go down well in this house. My other half adores Corn, so you're in good
Very,
company.
very good, very good. And it might even be a weird tour then, because if they actually would watch our show, then they might find a couple of things that sound familiar to them. Because they inspire me a lot, I would say. So I don't know if they would like it or if they would be offended. I wouldn't know, but
I think they've been around for long enough. I think they'd be all right. I think they'd be cool.
probably, yeah, probably. So yeah, but they'd have to be on there, and then that's the. It's hard. It's hard. that's probably this answer you ask me another time again, and it's going to be another band maybe.
For sure.
But right now I would maybe make a strategical choice, and I say it would be maybe Ghostmain.
Yes, that would be cool. I could see that. That'd be cool. I'm a big fan of Ghostman, and they're great. I really like them. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm still 50-50 there. He has a lot of songs that I totally dig, and there are a lot of songs that I listen to and I think, oh, what the fuck is this crap? I cannot stand it. So it's weird, but it's very creative and artistic, and I 100% appreciate that. And I like this whole genre that expanded during the recent years of those like single trap electronic, I don't know, SoundCloud
Yeah,
rap
absolutely.
dudes that are opening up into the metal world and taking stuff from that. And I really, really would love if the metal world would open up into this direction as well.
Absolutely. It does seem like there's a few bands who over the years have kind of just not worried about genre. And me personally, as a music fan, I know genre like is obviously helpful for when you're categorizing someone to explain to someone what they might sound like. But I
Yeah.
just generally use the blanket umbrella of heavy. And it's like, well, they sound like they're heavy or they're melodic, which is such a better way of going. They're a death metal, symphonic, whatever. Like it's not as helpful, you know. So if someone who hasn't heard of Oceans, how would you describe your sound in say a few words, in your own words?
This is being asked so often, and I always don't know what to say really. It's I always end up then in doing exactly what you just said. And I think, yeah, it's a mix. We have new metal and death metal and some post metal stuff in there, and maybe even some pop vocals, blah blah blah. But does that help in the end? I don't know. I actually like your approach. I would say we are a Jekyll and Hyde. We are very melodic and soft, but we are also very, very heavy and drastic.
Absolutely,
And
I
it
totally
can
agree with that.
and it can change from one to the other where you don't expect it to do it.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Coming from this, so as I say, I'm a music fan first, regardless of anything else I do in this
Yeah.
sort of industry. A music fan first. So when I put something on, I'm like, I kind of like, okay, right, headphones on, right, let's just listen to what it is. So like, was some of your songs start off like maybe a minute and a half of metal, and it's like, cool, right, I'm in, I'm riffing, everything's good, and then it will switch on a dime, and suddenly it's clean vocals, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I wasn't expecting. And that's what's brilliant about this genre as just a whole thing. It
Mm.
can just flick on a dime, you know, and it's no disrespect to other genres where they can sort of stay in one lane, if that makes sense. But when
Yeah.
you able to branch out, it's so much more interesting, and I love that.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. Like really, when I write, I try to do this on purpose. I sit there chuckling like a little child when I think, okay, I started writing this like uh, even pop radio friendly melodic song, and then 2 minutes in, I'm like, okay, but now I'm gonna scream my lungs out and put in a blast beat and go totally nuts for like 20 seconds, and then we go back to the radio friendly chorus. And it's so fun to do that. And the only like, yeah, it's just fun to explore this creatively. It's just a hard thing to make it feel natural, that it just doesn't feel too constructed and forced.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think we're doing a quite decent job with that.
Absolutely. I say I've had the record for a couple of weeks, and I think it's flawless. And that's not me just saying that for the sake of the
Wow.
podcast. It's genuinely flawless. I think it's a great record.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of things that I didn't catch the first time around. And there's a lot of themes and there's a lot of things that are going on. And it's kind of like on the surface, it's a very good, accomplished, heavy record. But when you dive underneath the surface and repeat listens, it gives you so much more. So I'm kind of glad that, you know, as a band, you've gone, right, this is the whole thing, this is the whole record, rather than just, because some bands have gone, here's 10 singles over the course of a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's cool, but at the same time, it's not a full world, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I think Oceans create is a world of immersion, in my opinion, at least.
I totally get what you mean by that. And I was having this thought in the beginning of our talk, actually, when we branched this topic. Like, this is, I was talking about like how streaming changed everything, and this is necessary, like, to have smaller snackable bits of music, I would say. And this is the one thing that we have with the 3 EPs, and they work on their own, and it's cool, and all that. But on the other hand, we wanted also to have this thing that would please us as music nerds as well, absolutely. Because I still enjoy, I listen to playlists, I listen to singles and all that for many times, a lot of reasons, whatever, but I also still listen to full albums. If they speak to me in some way, of course. And we wanted to do both worlds right, so to say. And I think it was, now that I speak about it, it feels like a very complicated and hard, challenging to do, but it all came together naturally, actually. And I think it was because in the beginning we just wanted to make an album.
Yeah.
And then the whole splitting up thing, it just happened along the process. It just worked. It all came naturally. The whole concept, we didn't even want to make a concept album. We were just compiling songs for a new album. And then we saw this, oh, this has a theme. Oh, then Patrick wrote this concept story. And then we saw, okay, we have actually three parts that kind of work on their own. And it just happened, and it all came naturally. And I'm very happy about that.
Absolutely. And I think, like you say, it's definitely 3 individual parts, but the seams on those parts are like seamless, if that makes sense. It's not that you stitch them together like that, but the way they do flow together, it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's linked with that, and that links with that, and it does flow like a whole immersive thing. So
yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it becomes something different, something more. I think if you take the time and listen to the whole thing, it can unfold a much more extreme reaction in you. I was listening to it like 1 or 2 weeks ago for the first time in a while, and I was floored at the end. I had goosebumps all over, and like those last 2 songs on the album, they have so much more impact if you go through the whole journey before. And they leave you with so much more emotion in the end, instead of just listening to them like on their own.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, that there is definitely quote unquote metal bangers in there, but as to use that analogy, but as a whole piece of art, which music is, it's a wonderful thing. I'm going to ask you one sort of final question, Timo, and I want to thank you for your time. And it's a question I ask every guest I've had on, and that is, what, in your opinion, is the best thing about being in your band? I say your band because I always say the best thing in a band, and they go, "What, in my band?" And I'm like, "Yeah, obviously your band." So just to clarify,
what's the best thing to be in my band is that we not only are allowed to do what we love and have this creative outlet that helps us to stay sane, but that we even have, I would even say, the privilege of a lot of people that are getting back at us, writing us messages and telling us how our music and our message actually helped them go through difficult times, battle their mental health issues, depression, anxiety, you name it. And I think this is the most rewarding thing for me, that we wanted to, in a way, be more than just a band. we also wanted to spread a message and put some good vibes out there in the world, even though we do make heavy and sad music. And that it comes back and that it works. This just makes me extremely happy.
Absolutely. And I have one final question, which everybody hates when I interview them, because they go, I can't answer that. But what is ahead? Obviously, the record is out now as people listen to this. Would assume that tours and things are potentially on the cards. But again, going back to the start of the conversation, is kind of everything's a bit rubbish in the touring life. But what is ahead that you can obviously talk about and want to plug and say to the fans?
I'm gonna say that it has been a long and exciting and very successful year leading up to this album, and that it is releasing this thing now. It feels amazing, and I hope that people will enjoy it, and they can do us a huge favor if they order the vinyl or the CD. Absolutely. And what is up next for us now is we're going on vacation.
That's fair. That's fair.
And whatever is happening in 2023, we will talk about next year then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. My name has been Matt. This has been the Nevermind Polly podcast with Timo of the band Oceans. You can check out their brand new record, which is out now. Hell is Where the Heart Is. Out everywhere. Go and buy a CD, go and buy a vinyl, pick up shirts from their merch store, which I'm sure they have. Thank you for being you. Timo, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you.
We will see you in 2023, my friend. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.